Well, anyone who's been keeping up with this channel has been watching me lose my mind trying to finish every goddamn 2016 anime show in time for me to make my top 20 anime of 2016 video before February is over. That was my goal. And I finished watching all the shows in this last finish or fail video. So I thought I'd offer my thoughts on how 2016 was for anime. Every year people seem to think that anime is either dying or on the decline. Really, it always comes down to how many shows there were that you liked or how much you liked those shows that year. If you're particularly picky or you are a big fan of a dead genre like classic mecha, then you might have been shit out of luck. But for me, as someone who has a very broad taste and is able to appreciate stuff in every different genre, it's pretty rare for there to be a year that is significantly worse than another year. Now, what's been interesting for me, though, is that I started doing a top 20 in 2014. I did a top 20 anime of the year. I had watched, just like with 2016, I had sampled everything that came out that year and made sure that I had my list pretty complete, by the end of the year. And in 2015, I've seen like probably half of all the shows, maybe more. So I'm close to, like with 2015, I've just got to do another finish or fail series similar to the one I just did, but it wouldn't probably take as long. And I have no time restriction to do that. I can do it probably at any point this year that I wanted to. Or just start now, because I'm already feeling weird about not watching anime constantly. I've gotten too used to it. But so yeah, I've had this perspective of the last few years, and 2014 was interesting because at the time that I made my top 20 of 2014, I considered it to be an okay year, like just okay, because even though the top half of my list, I would say the top 13 on my list are all shows I really like and care about. Like the top 13, the first 5 shows are all shows that end up being like favorites. 4 of them 10 out of 10s. Like Shirobako wasn't a 10 out of 10 at the time because only half of it was out, but by the end I would consider it a 10. Space Dandy is very close. It's one of my favorites. And then like second half of Kill La Kill, second half of Log Horizon Season 1, first half of Season 2, and the Chimera Ant arc of Hunter x Hunter, or the second half of the Chimera Ant arc, which is the best part. And so, yeah, it was like just a bunch of my outright favorite anime came out in 2014, along with a bunch of other really good stuff. There was like a few 9s, some strong 8s. But after that number 13, it is kind of a sheer drop-off. Like, those other shows are good, but they're not shows I think about all that much. They're not shows that would nearly contend with those top 13. And after that, after the top 20, there's not much in the way of honorable mentions. I think I had like 3 or 4 shows that I considered, like there were 2 that were on the list at first that then retroactively became honorable mentions by the end of the list. Because in 2014, I made the mistake of doing the list at the end of the year, and some of the shows that I talked about were not over yet. They still had a few episodes left, and some of them had kind of shit endings. So I'd put them on my list like hastily. Which would be like Parasite, which I had kind of fallen out with by the time the year was over, and Shingeki no Bahamut Genesis. So those 2 retroactively became honorable mentions, and I mentioned all this in like the second to last video, the number 2 video of the year. So at the time I considered it an okay year. But then as 2015 and 2016 went on, 2014 started to look like an amazing year, because even if there weren't a ton of good shows, the ones that were good were so fucking good. I had all those 10s and all those 9s, and then I went through all of 2015, and like the only show that I considered a 10 that I've seen so far in 2015 was Shirobako, which had already, the first half of it had already come out in 2014. Everything else was like way below that, at best like a 9. Nothing breaching up like close to that 10 point. And then for 2016, I'm done with everything this year. No 10s. Highest scores I gave were 9s. So and one of them's the first half of a show that could, I don't know, maybe it could be a 10. I kind of doubt it with Sangatsu no Lion. I think it'll probably stay at a 9 at best. But yeah, like there's there's no big show that's like one of my favorites. Not a single thing from this year would break my top 10 list. None of it would probably even break my top 20 or 30 list, you know. But on the other hand, I have a very comfortable top 20, and I have 10 honorable mentions, and that's 10 with some of them being like, you know, me listing a few shows that are kind of alike. So there was a lot of good shows in 2016 to me. Like, I had a lot to choose from. All of my top 20 are shows that I liked, you know, enough that I feel comfortable with them being on the list in a way that I wouldn't have. Like, when I look at the 2014 list, some of the stuff on the back end feels like it's just there to pad out the list, and some of it's just sequels, you know, to shows that had like Hana Monogatari is on there, and like, yeah, it's a good show, but you know, it's just a lot of what's good about it is just that it's part of the Monogatari franchise. You know, I didn't have to do that this year. If this had been 2014, Kizumono would have definitely ended up on the list, but it didn't because there were other things that I felt were more deserving this year. You guys haven't seen the list yet, so I don't want to give too much away about it. But yeah, so like I just feel like there were a lot of solid shows. I found myself consistently finishing stuff, which is not common for me. You know, like those finish or fail videos, I know I drop a lot of shit, but almost every single one I finished at least one show. In fact, I think all of them I finished at least one show, which is pretty rare. You know, if you listen to the intro video to the top 20 of 2014 list, I say I finished about 30 shows. So that means that almost all the ones I finished made it into the top 20. That was not true of 2016. I finished way more shows. I'm probably closer to 50. Yeah, I think around. No, God, it must have been probably, yeah, somewhere between 50 and 60 shows is how many I finished in 2016. So there was a lot more to go on. It was a better year overall for quantity, but not necessarily for quality. There was nothing that had that raw, and you know, you kind of need both. Like, it's one thing to get some really, you know, there's some really solid shows and a lot of watchable shows. Great way to occupy time, but nothing that's going to make me think about it for years and years and keep returning to it and care about it in the long term and consider it a favorite. So, yeah, but aside from that, the most notable things about 2016 for me, the number one thing that struck me the most is how strong visuals were this year. There was a lot of incredible looking anime this year. Like, I can't believe how good anime is looking right now. Like, we had stuff like the Kizumonogatari films, we had we had Kiznaiver, which is unbelievably gorgeous, you know, and Luluko is also really nice looking, but in more of a, you know, it's not like super well animated or anything, but Kiznaiver is like gorgeous designs, gorgeous animation, gorgeous digital effects. It's the full package. It looks incredible. Then you got Kabaneri of the Iron Fortress, which was inconsistent, but like, God, those early episodes are unfucking believable. Like, the fight scenes in episodes 1 and 2 and the finale are all just like incredible. The level of shading, you know, stuff that we used to think was only possible in 80s OVAs, and now suddenly here it is on a TV anime in 2016. That was fucking mind-blowing, you know? And for it to be animated as well as it was in those certain episodes. Then you had stuff like Flip Flappers towards the back end of the year, you know? A new Pokemon season that looks great. What the fuck is that about? It's a fucking, you know, long-running kids show with gorgeous character designs and artwork and some expressive animation. Where is this coming from, you know? So yeah, we had just like an incredibly strong year aesthetically. There was just lots of great look. Mob Psycho 100, oh my god, you know, all the crazy shit that happened in that show, the paint on glass and all that other shit that everyone was talking up all year, you know. Yuri on Ice, I know it gets a lot of shit for being inconsistent, but there's some fucking really long dance sequences in that show that look incredible. Just, yeah, there was so much great animation, so much great visual stuff, you know, which is probably why the Sakuga community seemed to be really booming in 2016, you know, where we got, I mean, if you follow it, Sakuga Boru started the Sakuga Wiki, not Wiki, the blog, Sakuga blog. Guys like Wave Motion Cannon and Canepa were really, you know, going all in on the Sakuga stuff this year, so, and just studying visuals, so, like, I really think anime visuals are at a high point. People care about them more than ever, and they're it's great. Unfortunately, anime storytelling not quite at the same level, and we're getting the trend of having fewer and fewer 26 episode shows is continuing. This has always been happening, because now shows really got to test and prove themselves to get out there. You don't want to launch into a 26 episode show not being sure if it's going to recoup the benefits. And you've got studios like Bones doing stuff like, making a season of My Hero Academia, testing the waters. Okay, it seems like people like it. We'll do another one, One Punch Man, Mob Psycho might, I don't know, I don't think they've announced anything about a second season, but it could happen, like, all these studios just seem to be going like, well, we'll do one, if they like it, we'll do another, which is smart, but it means that we wait longer and longer before a show gets to have a full breadth. And personally, most of my favorite shows tend to be 26 episodes. I really think you need that extra time with the characters and the story to really let things get meaty and interesting. And, we haven't had much of that lately. And there were some really solid, just like popcorn action shows lately, Cabaneri, High School Fleet, Izetta the Last Witch were all fun for me anyways. We've got, some real heavy hitting franchises now. Like, we've got like JoJo, which seems like it's going to go on forever. People continue to love it. People continue to buy into it. So, even though other shows are getting shorter, we've got these powerhouses that keep getting longer and even more, able to do whatever. And it's nice to see that too. I'm glad that JoJo exists and that people are so into it and stuff like that. And that it's as weird as it is. I think there's more weird anime. I'm really excited about ONAs getting more and more experimental. We had Gundam Thunderbolt, which was like 18-minute episodes that were released on whatever schedule it felt like. And there was like 4 of them, I think, and then they were compiled into a movie. Then you've got like Planetarian, where every episode's a different length. You've got tons of short shows coming out, and they're getting better and better. Up until like Danaganani was the first like short show which came out in 2014 that I like really cared about, and I had a second season in 2015. And 2015 had a couple okay short shows, but 2016 really kicked it off with a bang. We got Oshiete Galko-chan, which was great, 7-minute episodes. Luluko, which was incredible, with like 9-10-minute episodes, something like that. We got maybe 13. It was like half-length episodes. We got Tonkatsu DJ Agetaro with 9-minute episodes. Like, just tons of these shorter form shows that were really great. And they, picked the length that worked best for them. And I really think short shows are coming into their own. Internet animation's coming into its own. We're getting more and more shows aimed at adults and taking place in the workplace, which is nice. I'm glad that Shirobako seems to have sparked this sort of small wave. I don't know if it was directly because of Shirobako, but, we've gotten Soregaseiyu and New Games since then, and Girlish Number, and all these other shows that they're dabbling in some similar concepts, and I'm glad to see that, because I love those kinds of settings. So there's a lot to be excited about. There's a lot of good things happening, but I'm wondering when are we gonna get, for me, another 10, a big, dense fucking show with lots going on that I can really sink my teeth into, and it remains to be seen. And I don't really know what to expect from 2017. I expect things to keep getting even smaller. I expect us to keep getting even more and more shows with smaller and smaller seasons and episode counts and lengths. And I'm kind of okay with that, because on the one hand, yes, it means that we're not getting the big meaty shows that I really love. We're getting tons and tons of pretty good shows. But I also think that that's how we get more and more ideas. That, we get a show like Tonkatsu DJ Agataro, which is like totally out there compared to, like, it looks nothing like most anime, is like a weird episode length, totally different style, and I want more shows like that, so if that's what throwing out so many ideas is getting us, is like interesting, weird little things, I'm totally okay with that, and I expect there to be more. I really hope ONAs keep expanding as they have been, and I'll be excited to see the evolution of this. I'm always excited to see the evolution of anime, And I'll definitely say that 2016 was a lot more exciting than 2015 was. I mean, part of the reason I didn't keep up with 2015 shows well enough to keep, to fucking make a top 20 list was just that that year was boring to me. Like, there was not a lot going on that was of particular interest to me. There wasn't like, we were getting more and more and more shows and more of these seasonal shows, and it felt to me like every show was just trying to be like a big deal that season, and none of them cared about leaving much of an impact. It felt like a lot of shallow anime. And 2016 felt less like just a ton of shallow stuff and more like a ton of shallow but interesting stuff, and lots of just weird ideas and kooky shit that studios were just experimenting and willing to go out there, so I really hope that's what we're going to get more of. I want that to be 2017. I don't want a repeat of 2015. I would prefer that we get something meaty, but if it's just another 2016, I think I'll be okay with that, because there was a lot of interesting stuff in 2016. So, I think it was overall a pretty okay year. Every year is a pretty okay year. There's never an amazing year of anime, and there's never a terrible year of anime. Each one has its strengths and weaknesses, and I can't think of a year that's better or worse than 2016 or 20, because again, 2014 had so few good shows, even if the ones it had were very powerful. I mean, overall, I guess I would say I like 2014 more. And I still have a lot of catching up to do on 2012 and 2013, but those both seem like pretty incredible years from what I've seen so far. So, I do feel like the span of like 2011 to 2014 was a particularly like awesome fucking span of years for anime. But it doesn't mean that this next span won't also be interesting in its own way. And that's, I guess, my thoughts on 2016 anime.